Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel, Mastering the Wedding Photography Biz.
I'm Hunter.
And I'm Sarah.
And if you're not using any kind of dynamic pricing in your wedding or portrait photography business, but have really set your prices in stone and stick to them every single time, then you might be missing out on great jobs, some more money, and some cool opportunities.
So, if you want to learn a bit more about how we price our own wedding and portrait photography jobs using our intuitive pricing method, keep watching.
So you don't have to have been in business for years or have a major in economics or anything like this to understand this really basic principle. All else equal, people will buy more of a product or service if it costs less. So generally speaking, if you sell a product at a specific price, let's say a high-end TV for $1,000, then you're gonna of course sell some number of that product, like 50 TVs in a month.
Yeah. But if you went back in time and sold the exact same TV for in the exact same town for the same exact month, but instead you repriced it to sell them for $750, you would most likely sell more TVs. Let's say you sold like 100 instead of 50 TVs.
So we aren't going to talk about complex big picture concepts like maximizing profit over time. We really just wanted to bring home the point that all else equal, if you lower the price of something, it is more likely to sell, and if you raise the price of something, it is probably less likely to sell, generally speaking.
Which, of course, seems obvious, but applying that to how you price your own wedding and portrait photography services might not seem obvious to you.
And here's what we mean by that. In most Western cultures, we are used to prices being fairly set in stone, very absolute, right? If you go to the grocery store and you try to buy a box of cereal and it's listed for $3, you know that when you get to the front, it's going to be $3, right? Unless you have a coupon or it's on sale, it's not like you're going to haggle with the person at checkout and try to pay less for it. And we can sort of get ourselves into that mentality, but as professional photographers, and especially as solopreneurs or as a small team like we are, we don't necessarily have to operate from that same way. We have the freedom and flexibility to set our prices how we want, when we want.
Now, we are not advocating that you totally make up your prices from scratch or just like off the top of your head every single time you get an inquiry. That would be absolutely infuriating and honestly a waste of your own time as well as your client's time. However, you also don't need to stick to your standard pricing in every single situation for every single client. You are allowed to have flexibility. Again, this is your business.
So if you saw our video last year about travel fees, which by the way, link is up here, we talked about sort of introduced our intuitive pricing method that we use to determine travel fees. And so basically this is our version of what other people might call dynamic pricing, where we really just ask ourselves how badly we want to shoot at that session or shoot at that location or work with that couple. And then we balance that against the time, the energy, and the money it will require to get there and use those ideas to set our travel fee in a way that feels right to us. And so that's why we might charge $200 for travel fee to this one location and not charge any travel fee to another location, even if they're the exact same distance from our house. It's less about, a hard 59 cents per mile or some rule or rigid pricing than it is about just making sure that it makes sense to us. And so if we want to go to one and don't want to go to the other, we can use our own pricing to sort of impact the decisions that our clients make.
And when we do this, we make sure that on average, we shoot more frequently at locations that we like and less frequently at locations that we don't like. And when we do shoot at the locations that we don't really like shooting at, whether because they're too crowded or the lighting's not great, we just want to make a bit more money to compensate us for working in those conditions.
And again, if you feel like you want to learn more about that, go check out that video. But the thing is, that intuitive pricing method doesn't just apply to travel fees, but Sarah and I will often use this for every wedding or portrait session that we want. And so if a couple inquires with us about a wedding that is at this really awesome location that we've always wanted to shoot at, or it's on a date that, we're probably not going to book because it's, a Friday, or maybe it's in our off season, or even if we just want to bless some friends of ours with wedding photography that we know they can't afford, we have the option and the flexibility to deviate from our standard pricing really whenever we want. And sometimes we will even, give a discount to clients if they are well connected and feel like this could be good for the growth of our business in other ways.
And on the other hand, if we get an inquiry for a job that just doesn't get us excited, or is at a location that we don't like shooting at, or is for a peak date that we know we are going to book no matter what, we can stand strong and not budge a single dollar from our standard pricing at the end of the day, it's totally up to us.
Now, if this dynamic pricing, or what we call the intuitive pricing method, is all new to you and sounds really exciting, but you're just sort of nervous or maybe confused about how to actually implement it, then don't worry, you are definitely not alone. After leading almost 200 hours of, two-on-one coaching calls and workshops with newer photographers, we know that pricing is one of the most common things that our students stress about.
And it kind of makes sense. And we are sure that charging the right price is absolutely essential if you want to run a photography business that is both profitable and sustainable. But figuring out what to charge for your wedding and portrait photography services or how to structure your pricing can just be completely overwhelming.
And by the way, that intuitive pricing method is just a small fraction of what we've learned and taught our photography students about pricing over the years. It took us more than 5 years of trial and error, but in that time, we learned that how we price our photography services is almost as much of an art as the photography itself.
Yeah, and that's why last fall, we taught a 2-hour workshop called Pricing for Wedding and Portrait Photographers, how to know what to charge to get booked. The link for the workshop replay is actually in the description, and in that workshop, we break down how and why we set our prices the way that we do so that you feel confident when setting your own prices.
Because here's the deal, guys. If you are undercharging for your services, you could be missing out on money every single time you book. And so the sooner you figure out how to charge what you're actually worth, the sooner you can make more money, feel better about your sessions, and grow your business in a way that actually feels good to you. And so hopefully this one-time investment in yourself and your business for less than $100 should feel like a no-brainer.
But our intuitive pricing method isn't the only crucial pricing wisdom that we teach on in that workshop, and we're about to give you just another peek at an essential part of how we do dynamic pricing, specifically when it comes to wedding photography.
And so here's how most wedding photographers price their services. They decide on, let's say, either a starting price or maybe a range of packages. Let's say $2,000 is like their starting price. And so a client reaches out to them, and whether that client is getting married in a month, in 6 months, or in 18 months, the photographer will send them a starting price. I start at $2,000.
And then let's say 6 months go by, they book a handful of weddings, so they up their starting price to $2,500. And when someone reaches out about their wedding, no matter the date, now they start at $2,500.
So here's the critical mistake that photographer would be making. They are pricing themselves based on the photographer they are in that moment and not the photographer that they are going to be when that wedding comes around. And so, in other words, it doesn't matter to that photographer when the couple is getting married. All that matters is the date that they actually reach out to the photographer. And so a couple who's getting married 2 years from now but reaches out today is going to get today's prices, but a couple who's getting married in 8 or 10 months but reaches out in 6 months might actually get a higher price point, even though their wedding might be a full year before this other couple, hypothetically.
And we just think that this is totally backwards, and here's why. If you have shot 20 weddings, then you have the skill, the experience, and the portfolio of a photographer who has shot 20 weddings. And if you shoot 10 more this year, then next year you will have the skill, experience, and portfolio of a photographer who has shot 30 weddings. And we think that that is a big difference.
And now we're not saying that skill level is only determined by how many weddings you have shot. This does not work comparing photographer to photographer. But for you, if you have shot 20, by the time you have shot 30, you will be better, right? So if a year from now you're going to have another 10 or 20 or 30 weddings under your belt, you hopefully will be a better photographer. You're going to be better at shooting, posing, at editing, at managing a wedding day, at directing wedding parties and families, and even at reacting to those last minute changes that happen when the wedding day timeline inevitably goes out outside of the regular plan. And we think that your prices should reflect those improvements.
Yeah. And that is why Hunter and I price our services based on the photographers that we are going to be and not the photographers that we are right now. So if two couples reached out to us today and one was getting married in 6 months and the other was getting married in 18 months, they might see two completely different price sheets. The further out the book, the more you're going to pay because you are going to get an even better version of us by the time your wedding day rolls around.
So that same photographer we talked about, when the couple reaches out getting married 2 years from now, they might get the $2,500 or even the $3,000 price sheet. Whereas even if, it's 6 months from now, if that other couple reaches out and is only getting married a couple months later, they might get that lowest price point because it's about Bless you.
Sorry.
It's about the date that the wedding happens, not the day they reach out. But again, if any of this seems confusing to you, or if you really like this idea but wonder how to actually implement it, then again, we'd really encourage you to use the link below to check out more about our workshop, which is all about pricing for wedding and portrait photographers.
That's it for this week.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want more great content and advice for learning how to take better images and run a successful portrait or wedding photography business, we would encourage you to join our Facebook community, Mastering the Wedding Photography Biz.
In that group, we are building a free community of other photographers who are also building their photography businesses and helping each other out along the way.
And of course, please like, subscribe, comment, all of those good YouTube algorithm things so that more people can see our helpful content and so that you know as soon as we drop new content.
Bye.
See you guys.